What is love? Is it a chemical reaction, a social construct, or something far more mysterious? Hey lovebirds, welcome back to another interesting discovery of the Shadows of History series. If you're into gripping documentaries, deep dives into historical events, hidden truths and untold stories, you're definitely in the right place. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like and drop a comment below. I love hearing your thoughts. Big shout out to all our new subscribers. Welcome to the family. And to my returning viewers, you already know, you're the real MVPs. Alright, let's dive into today's discovery. You're not going to want to miss this one. For some, it's a slow, steady burn. For others, it's a lightning strike. A sudden, inexplicable force that reorients the very compass of their lives. This was the case for a Swiss businesswoman named Corinne Hofmann. In 1986, she was on holiday in Kenya with her boyfriend, enjoying the sun and sights, her life neatly planned. She was successful, comfortable, and secure in her world. But the universe, it seems, had a very different path laid out for her. One she could never have imagined in her wildest dreams. It was on a ferry near Mombasa that her world tilted on its axis. Across the deck, she saw him. He was not a man from her world of boardrooms and European cities. He was a warrior of the Samburu people, tall and slender, adorned with intricate beadwork and ochre-painted skin. His name was Lketinga. He stood with a quiet dignity, a spear in his hand, his gaze fixed on the horizon. For Corinne, it was not just an observation, it was a revelation. Something deep within her recognized something in him, a connection that defied logic, language, and the vast cultural chasm that separated them. In that single, fleeting moment, her meticulously constructed life began to feel like a distant memory, a prelude to a story she was only just beginning to understand. The connection was immediate and overwhelming, a silent conversation that passed between two souls from opposite ends of the earth. She described it later as love at first sight, but perhaps it was something more profound. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated knowing. She knew, with a certainty that frightened and thrilled her, that this man was her destiny. Her boyfriend, her business, her home in Switzerland, all of it faded into the background, replaced by an intense, singular focus on the warrior across the ferry. It was a pull so strong, so primal, that it would set her on a course of radical transformation, a journey into the very heart of what it means to be human. This single encounter serves as a powerful question for all of us. How do we explain such moments? Are they mere infatuation, a trick of the mind drawn to the exotic and the unknown? Or are they glimpses into a deeper reality, a connection that transcends the boundaries we build around ourselves? Corinne Hofmann's story begins here, not with a decision, but with a feeling. It was a feeling so powerful, it would compel her to abandon everything she had ever known for a life of immense hardship and profound discovery, all for a love that seemed to the outside world utterly impossible and incomprehensible. Kenya is a land of breathtaking contrasts, a place where nature's raw power is on full display. Imagine endless savannas stretching to the horizon, dotted with acacia trees that stand like solitary sentinels against the vast open sky. This is the landscape that called to Corinne. It is a world where herds of elephants roam freely, and the roar of a lion is a nightly serenade. The air itself feels different here, ancient, untamed, and filled with the promise of adventure. This is the homeland of the Samburu, a people whose lives are as interwoven with this land as the threads of a tapestry. They are a semi-nomadic people, their existence dictated by the seasons and the needs of their precious cattle. The Samburu are closely related to the Maasai, sharing a common language and many cultural traditions. Their society is built around a deep respect for elders, a strong sense of community, and a spiritual connection to the land and their livestock. For the Samburu, cattle are not just a source of food and wealth, they are a sacred link to their ancestors and their god, Nkai. The men are warriors, known as Morans, responsible for protecting the tribe and their herds. They are a striking sight, with their long braided hair dyed with red ochre, their bodies adorned with vibrant beads, each color and pattern telling a story of their status, age, and accomplishments. It was this world, so vibrant and so fundamentally different from her own, that captured Corinne's imagination. Her brief holiday encounter with Lketinga was not enough. The memory of him and the world he represented haunted her. She returned to Switzerland, but her heart remained in Kenya. The sterile efficiency of her European life now seemed colorless and devoid of meaning. The call of the wild heart was too strong to ignore. She could not shake the image of the warrior, nor the feeling of profound connection she had experienced. The desire to understand his world, to be a part of it, became an obsession that overshadowed everything else. This pull highlights a fundamental human yearning for authenticity and meaning. Corinne's life in Switzerland was successful by all conventional measures, yet it left her feeling unfulfilled. The Samburu way of life, though lacking in material comfort, seemed to possess a richness and a purpose that her own world lacked. It was a life lived in close harmony with nature, governed by ancient traditions and a powerful sense of belonging. This was the siren song that lured her back, a promise of a life that was more real, more vital, and ultimately more connected to the core of existence. Her journey was not just toward a man, but toward a new way of being. The decision was made. It was a choice that defied all logic and reason in the eyes of her friends and family. Corinne Hofmann sold her successful business, a bridal shop she had built from the ground up. She liquidated her assets, packed a few suitcases, and said goodbye to the comfortable, predictable life she had always known. She was trading her modern apartment for a mud hut, her car for her own 2 feet, and her independence for a life as a wife in a patriarchal community. This was not a tentative step. It was a plunge into the unknown, a complete and total surrender to the call of her heart. She was burning her bridges, leaving no path of retreat. Her arrival back in Kenya marked the true beginning of her odyssey. She sought out Lketinga in his remote village, Barsaloi. This was not the tourist-friendly Kenya she had seen before. This was the deep bush, a place of dust, heat, and immense isolation. Finding him was a challenge in itself, a testament to her unwavering determination. When they were finally reunited, the connection was as potent as ever. But now, it was no longer a fleeting romance. It was the start of a new life, one for which she was utterly unprepared. The reality of her decision began to set in as she looked around at the small cluster of huts, the manyatta that was to be her new home. The leap from a first-world, individualistic society to a communal, tradition-bound tribe is almost impossible to comprehend. In Switzerland, her identity was tied to her career, her possessions, and her personal achievements. Here, her identity would be redefined. She would be Lketinga's wife, a member of his family, and a participant in the daily rhythms of the community. Her past life, her language, her skills as a businesswoman, all of it was rendered meaningless in this new context. She had to learn everything from scratch, like a child, from how to carry water to how to communicate without a shared language, relying on gestures and the kindness of strangers. This radical act of self-reinvention poses a fascinating question about identity. Is our identity fixed, or is it a fluid construct that can be reshaped by our choices and experiences? Corinne willingly stripped away every external marker of her former self. She was embarking on an experiment in living, testing the limits of love and the elasticity of the human spirit. She was betting everything on a feeling, on a connection with a man from a world so alien to her own. It was an act of incredible bravery, or perhaps incredible folly, but it was a testament to the power of a conviction that emanates from a place deeper than rational thought. Corinne's new life began with the construction of their home, a small hut made of mud, cow dung, and sticks. This was her marital home, a far cry from the modern comforts she had left behind. Daily life was a relentless cycle of demanding physical labor. The primary task was fetching water, which often meant walking for miles under the scorching African sun to a riverbed and carrying heavy containers back to the village. There was no electricity, no running water, no sanitation. Cooking was done over an open fire, and the diet consisted mainly of milk, blood, and meat from their livestock, supplemented with maize meal when available. It was a life of subsistence, of constant effort just to meet the most basic needs. The challenges were not just physical, they were profoundly cultural and social. Corinne, now known by her Samburu name, Napirai, found herself in a world governed by strict rules and ancient traditions she did not understand. As a woman, her role was clearly defined. She was expected to be subservient to her husband and the male elders of the community. Her Western ideas of equality and independence clashed with the patriarchal structure of Samburu society. Simple acts, like speaking her mind or making a decision without consulting Lketinga, could be seen as disrespectful and disruptive to the established order. She had to navigate a complex web of social etiquette where a wrong word or action could cause offense. Furthermore, she faced constant health challenges. The lack of hygiene and access to clean water exposed her to a host of diseases. She battled malaria, hepatitis, and malnourishment, her body struggling to adapt to the harsh conditions and the unfamiliar diet. Medical care was virtually non-existent in their remote village, and a simple illness could quickly become life-threatening. Her physical transformation was stark. She lost a tremendous amount of weight, and her health deteriorated significantly. This physical decline mirrored the immense strain her new life was placing on her, a constant reminder of the world she had sacrificed and the precarity of her existence. Despite these immense hardships, there were also moments of profound beauty and connection. She learned to appreciate the simplicity of life, the importance of community, and the resilience of the human spirit. She found joy in the laughter of the children, the shared stories around the evening fire, and the quiet moments with Lketinga. She opened a small shop in the village, using her business acumen to sell basic goods, which brought a small measure of financial stability and earned her a degree of respect within the community. Her life was a paradox, a tapestry woven with threads of deep suffering and genuine happiness, a constant struggle between her old self and the new person she was becoming. To understand Corinne's journey, we must delve deeper into the culture she chose to join. The Samburu people live by a code that has been passed down through generations, a set of beliefs and practices that govern every aspect of their lives, from birth to death. Their social structure is organized around age sets, a system where men born within a certain period are initiated together and move through the stages of life as a unified group. This creates incredibly strong bonds of loyalty and a clear social hierarchy. The elders hold the ultimate authority, their wisdom and experience guiding the decisions of the community. They are the keepers of tradition, the living libraries of Samburu history and law. Marriage among the Samburu is a complex affair, often arranged by families and involving the exchange of livestock as a bride price. It is not just a union of two individuals, but an alliance between two families, a vital social and economic contract. The concept of romantic love, as understood in the West, is not the primary basis for marriage. Loyalty, fertility, and the ability to contribute to the family's well-being are paramount. A woman marries into her husband's family and is expected to bear children, particularly sons, to continue the lineage. Corinne's marriage to Lketinga, born of a spontaneous romantic connection, was an anomaly within this system, a deviation from the established norm. Spirituality is woven into the fabric of daily life. The Samburu believe in a single benevolent god, Nkai, who resides in the sky and on the high mountains. They do not build temples or have formal religious services. Instead, they communicate with Nkai through prayer and ceremony, often led by the elders. They believe that Nkai provides for them through the rain, the grass, and the health of their cattle. Illness and misfortune are often attributed to displeasing Nkai or to curses from enemies. Diviners and healers play an important role in diagnosing the spiritual cause of problems and prescribing the appropriate rituals to restore harmony. Living within this framework required Corinne to unlearn her own cultural assumptions. The Western emphasis on the individual was replaced by the primacy of the community. The linear concept of time, with its deadlines and schedules, gave way to a cyclical rhythm dictated by the seasons and natural events. The direct, confrontational style of communication she was used to was, well, pretty ineffective in a culture that valued indirectness and harmony. She had to learn to read subtle cues, to understand unspoken rules, and to accept a worldview where the spiritual and the physical were inextricably linked. It was an immersive education in a different way of seeing the world. The love between Corinne and Lketinga was the anchor of her new life, but it was also a source of immense conflict. In the beginning, their connection was powerful enough to transcend the language barrier. They communicated through touch, through looks, and through a shared sense of adventure. Corinne's efforts to create a life for them, such as buying a car for transportation and opening a store, were her ways of expressing love, by providing and improving their circumstances. She saw these actions as building a bridge between her world and his, creating a shared space where they could thrive together. She believed their love could overcome any obstacle. However, the cultural chasm between them was vast, and in many ways insurmountable. As time went on, what initially seemed exotic and romantic became a source of friction. Lketinga's worldview was shaped by Samburu tradition. He could not understand her fierce independence or her need to question everything. His jealousy, a trait considered normal and even necessary for a Samburu man protecting his wife, felt suffocating and possessive to Corinne. He became suspicious of her interactions with other men, her business dealings, and her connections to the outside world. Their different understandings of trust, fidelity, and partnership began to erode the foundation of their relationship. The birth of their daughter Napirai brought them immense joy, but also added another layer of complexity. Corinne was fiercely protective of her child, and her maternal instincts clashed with local customs regarding childcare and health. She worried constantly about hygiene, nutrition, and the lack of medical facilities, fears that her Samburu family did not share to the same degree. They relied on traditional remedies and a belief in fate, while she relied on her knowledge of Western medicine. These fundamental differences in how to care for their child created deep divisions and arguments, turning moments of parental love into sources of stress and disagreement. Ultimately, the very love that brought them together could not bridge the gap between their two worlds. Corinne's attempts to introduce Western ways were seen by Lketinga not as help, but as a challenge to his authority and his culture. His adherence to tradition, which she had once found so compelling, now felt like a rigid cage. The passion that had defined their early relationship slowly gave way to misunderstanding, resentment, and a profound sense of loneliness for Corinne. She was living in the heart of a community, yet she had never felt more isolated. Their love story became a cautionary tale about the immense difficulty of merging two profoundly different realities. The final chapters of Corinne's life in Kenya were marked by a painful unraveling. The cultural misunderstandings and Lketinga's escalating jealousy began to consume their relationship. His paranoia grew, fueled by local gossip and his inability to comprehend her world. He accused her of infidelity and began to see her independence not as a strength, but as a betrayal of Samburu values. The love and trust that had once been their foundation crumbled under the weight of suspicion. The dream of a life built on love alone was colliding with the harsh reality of their incompatible worlds. The daily struggles for survival were now compounded by the emotional turmoil of a failing marriage. Corinne's health continued to decline precipitously. Years of battling tropical diseases, coupled with the emotional stress and a nutrient-poor diet, had taken a severe toll on her body. She was emaciated and constantly ill. It became clear that she could not survive much longer in these conditions. More importantly, she began to fear for her daughter's future. She wanted Napirai to have access to education, healthcare, and opportunities that would be impossible to find in their remote village. The fierce love for her child began to outweigh the love she still felt for her husband. A terrible choice loomed before her: stay and risk both their lives, or leave and break her family apart. The decision to leave was the most difficult of her life. It was an admission that her dream had failed, that love was not enough. She planned her departure in secret, knowing that Lketinga would never willingly let her take their daughter away. The escape was fraught with tension and fear. It was a heartbreaking reversal of her initial journey. 4 years earlier, she had arrived full of hope, ready to abandon everything for love. Now she was fleeing, taking with her the most precious part of that life, her daughter, and leaving behind the man who was still, in many ways, the love of her life. It was a journey back to the world she had so eagerly left. Returning to Switzerland was another form of culture shock. She was no longer the confident businesswoman who had left. She was a single mother, without a job or a home, and deeply scarred by her experiences. She had to readjust to a world that now felt alien and overwhelming. The noise, the speed, the consumerism, it was all a stark contrast to the quiet communal life she had known. Yet she had to rebuild her life, for her own sake and for her daughter. Her journey had come full circle, but she was not the same person. The woman who returned was one who had loved, lost, and learned the profound and painful limits of a dream. Looking back, what did Corinne Hofmann truly learn from her extraordinary journey? One of the most significant lessons was about the nature of love itself. She learned that love can be a powerful, life-altering force, capable of inspiring incredible sacrifice and bravery. Her story is a testament to the raw power of human connection. However, she also learned that love does not exist in a vacuum. It is shaped and tested by the realities of culture, environment, and individual personality. Love alone cannot build a bridge over an impassable cultural divide if there is no shared foundation of understanding and compromise. It requires more than passion. It requires a common language of values. Her experience also offered a profound education in self-discovery. By stripping away everything familiar, Corinne was forced to confront her own core identity. She discovered a resilience and a strength she never knew she possessed. She learned to survive in the harshest of conditions, to communicate without words, and to build a life from nothing. At the same time, she was forced to recognize her own limits. She learned that she could not completely erase her own cultural DNA. Her Western values of independence, equality, and a certain view of health and education were ingrained too deeply to be abandoned, especially when it came to her child. Furthermore, her story is a powerful exploration of cultural understanding. She did not just observe the Samburu people as a tourist. She lived among them, loved one of them, and became part of their community. She gained an intimate first-hand understanding of their traditions, their beliefs, and their daily struggles. This immersive experience taught her to respect a way of life so different from her own, even when she could not fully adopt it. She learned that no single culture has a monopoly on truth or happiness, and that there is immense richness in the diversity of human experience. Her journey highlights the importance of empathy and the challenge of true cross-cultural integration. In the end, Corinne's story is not one of failure, but of profound and painful growth. She did not succeed in living out her romantic dream, but she succeeded in undertaking an incredible journey of the human spirit. She dared to follow her heart to its most extreme conclusion and emerged with a deeper understanding of love, culture, and herself. Her reflections are not filled with bitterness, but with a sense of gratitude for the experience, for the love she shared with Lketinga, and for their daughter, the living embodiment of their two worlds colliding. She learned that sometimes the most valuable journeys are the ones that don't end where we expected. So, what is the ultimate lesson we can take from this incredible saga? What message does Corinne Hofmann's journey into the heart of Kenya leave with us? It is a message that resonates across all cultures and all times. It is about the fundamental human quest for connection and meaning. We are all, in our own ways, searching for something that makes us feel alive, something that gives our lives purpose. For Corinne, that search led her to a Samburu warrior. For others, it may lead to a career, a creative passion, or a spiritual path. The destination is less important than the courage to undertake the journey itself. Her story teaches us that true understanding requires more than just tolerance. It requires immersive experience. It is easy to judge other cultures from a distance, to view their traditions as strange or backward. But to truly understand, we must be willing to step outside of our own comfort zones, to listen without prejudice, and to see the world through another's eyes. Corinne's life in the Manyata, with all its hardships, gave her an insight into the Samburu people that no book or documentary could ever provide. It reminds us that empathy is not an abstract concept. It is a practice, one that requires humility, patience, and a genuine desire to connect. Perhaps the most important takeaway is about the balance between following our hearts and acknowledging reality. Corinne's story is a powerful endorsement of living passionately and taking risks for love. It encourages us not to be afraid of the unconventional path. However, it is also a cautionary tale. It shows that passion must be tempered with wisdom and dreams must be reconciled with practical realities. We must understand that our individual desires exist within a larger context of culture, family, and responsibility. True growth comes from navigating the complex terrain between our inner world of feeling and the outer world of circumstance. In the end, the story of Corinne and Lketinga is not just about a Swiss woman and a Kenyan warrior. It is a human story. It speaks to the universal longings for love, belonging, and self-discovery that unite us all. It challenges us to examine our own lives, our own assumptions, and our own courage. It asks us, what are you willing to risk for what you believe in? How far would you go to find a life of true meaning? Corinne Hofmann's journey provides no easy answers, but it leaves us with the profound and inspiring truth that the quest for a meaningful life is the greatest adventure we can ever undertake. This beautiful lady is the author of the best-selling book, The White Messiah. If you enjoy this story and want more interesting stories like this, click the subscribe button and turn on the notification so you will be notified when we upload.